One of the things I actually want to talk about is we get a lack of sunlight. We stay indoors all day, and because we stay indoors all day, we get paler, right? Everyone knows that, that's obvious. And then they say because you're not getting enough sunlight, the lack of vitamin D that you get from the sun actually causes something that's called SAD, or is better known as Seasonal Affective Disorder. When I was younger, I used to suffer from this, and as long as you supplement the right things and you take care of yourself, one of the things that we're going to actually see is that you can reduce or minimize it. I'm not discouraging you, but it's not that in February you just have to go take a vacation and go in the Caribbean and like lay out and get some sun and whatnot. But you're going to have to do things to help supplement it. But it's something I want to look at that really summarizes a lot of the things that I have learned and actually have put into practice over the years. So here we go. This is actually what I was looking at from an X account known as Tristan, Decentralized Health. He actually says that most people think you need to supplement vitamin D to avoid seasonal affective disorder, aka SAD. This is not true, and I would not recommend it. Here's what I would do instead to thrive in the winter. Instead of being depressed, you do not need to move south, which I agree. If you have something that keeps you in the northern hemisphere or in the far southern hemisphere, just take what we're about to say into consideration. What this thread is going to cover is why supplementing vitamin D is not equivalent, alternate sources of vitamin D, embracing dietary seasonality, embracing cold, light therapy, and winter activity. Now, let's talk about it first. Don't supplement with vitamin D. Why it doesn't work. Vitamin D supplementation is good at one thing: increasing blood 25-OH vitamin D levels. Research has concluded that vitamin D supplementation does not generate overall health benefits, and then they link to an article. So one of the things is I'm going to leave that article in the description just so you can click on it and read a little bit more. But one of the things that this article says is in conclusion, the supplementation of vitamin D replete individuals does not generate overall health benefits. However, correction of severe vitamin D deficiency remains essential. So let's look at that. Let's see. All right, and let me switch. And this is the article, The Health Effects of Vitamin D Supplementation, Evidence from Human Studies. It says the abstract is vitamin D supplementation can prevent and cure nutritional rickets in infants and children. Well, let's just go through the key points because I think that'll be a little more efficient. All right, so the first key point is vitamin D and calcium supplementation can cure nutritional rickets and can modestly decrease the risk of major fractures in older adults with poor vitamin D status or calcium intake. So these are a few other things that actually can happen to you from low vitamin D. Nutritional rickets, and it also increases your major fractures in adults. All right, so that is actually one of them. So good point there. All right, so let's see. Large supplementational trials recruiting vitamin D replete adults have demonstrated no effects in the incidence of cancer, cardiovascular events, or type 2 diabetes mellitus, and no benefits in terms of bone density and the risk of falls. Oh, okay, so no effects. All right, so that's one thing right there that we're going to learn right off the bat is that there's no effects from the supplementation. I guess it's like oral pill supplementation. Now, next one. Post hoc analysis of large supplementation trials have suggested that supplementation of individuals with vitamin D deficiency modestly delay age-related bone loss and progression to type 2 diabetes mellitus and improve lung function. All right, so modestly delays. That's not too bad. I mean, you probably want to look into things that do more than just modestly delay, but hey, a modest delay, if you catch it early in time, that sounds like something that might be valuable from this. Meta-analysis suggested that vitamin D supplementation results in a modest decrease in cancer mortality. All right, that is good. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why you should be supplementing. Let's go through these last two key points. Over 60 randomization studies have examined causal links between genetically lower vitamin D levels and health outcomes. Most studies generated null effects, except for 4 studies that demonstrated an increased risk of multiple sclerosis. So, looking at that, generally lower vitamin D, causal link. Yeah, so it seems like there is a link. but an increased risk of multiple sclerosis. That's pretty serious. And then in conclusion, the supplementation of vitamin D, and we already said that one. So that's just a little bit of the summary on that first point. Now let me get back to the original thread. All right, so let's keep going. Now on the next point, why it doesn't work. A vitamin D supplement is not equal to vitamin D from sunlight. For starters, it's not sulfated. Sulfated vitamin D is water soluble and is what is actually beneficial for your immune and cardiovascular system. Vitamin D3 supplement also increases LDL cholesterol. Makes a lot of sense to me. So let's go through this. It's just a better quality, that quality you actually get from the sunlight, which in the end is making a point to escape to the Caribbean or Mexico or wherever you want to go that's warm, to get your sunlight. But let's see. Let's look at this chart here. Schematic of differences between vitamin D supply through supplements or through sunlight exposure. All right, so sunlight goes to the skin, the melanin absorbs it, the sulfite with the vitamin D, with the sulfate, vitamin D sulfate, cholesterol sulfate travels freely in the blood and delivers cholesterol and sulfate to all the tissues. That's one thing that is also important, that cholesterol is important actually in the body for hormonal production and other stuff, but that's another story for another time. Maybe I'll find some good articles to look at and we'll talk about that in another video. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe for more. All right, so vitamin D supplement. So taking your vitamin D pills, this is on the right, packaged up inside LDL particles. Serum LDL increases, so the lower cholesterol goes up. Gives false signal about cholesterol and sulfate bioavailability, so it's a false signal to your body. Okay, that is a big difference right there. Very important stuff to know. Let's go down. Hold on. So next point is, most don't know that there are 12 different analogs of vitamin D produced in the liver. Over half of these you get from sunlight. A supplement is getting you just a few analogs, ones that are good for calcium transport mostly. Woo! All right, I understand a lot of this, but this part is a little, you need a chemistry degree for this one. So let's look at it. All right, so looking at this, sunlight, it creates all these things circled. These must be what they're talking about. Looks important. But yeah, I will tell you, and I will be honest with you, when I am outskilled, that's a little bit much in terms of information for me. No chemistry degree over here, so let's move on. There's plenty that I understand in this thread. So let's look at point 2. Alternate sources of vitamin D3. Fatty cold water fish. I hope you go for a wild caught, because let's talk about that in a future video, the difference between wild caught and farm raised fish, especially salmon, because wow, some of the stuff I've seen, there's a huge difference. So make sure it's fatty cold water wild caught fish. Nature's quite clever, put a high amount of vitamin D in cold water fish. However, this vitamin D is not sulfated either, so it won't replace vitamin D either. All right, so it's a start. And one of the things that you also have to realize with some of these fish oil supplements is that they've been on the shelf for a while. So if you get like the fish oil burps, or you get that fishy breath, that means that actually that fish oil supplement, it's actually gone stale and expired. If it's not supposed to have a strong fishy smell. Anyway, so let's see what Tristan elaborates on in terms of this thread. So farm fish is BS for many reasons. Look at that. I was just telling you a moment ago, including vitamin D content. One study showed that wild-caught salmon had 3 times the vitamin D on average. Wow, 3 times the amount. That's important. Pass on grain-fed, lice-ridden, fake-colored salmon, please. Oof. Eat wild caught. But yeah, that's what I would tell you. Go find those things. I actually point those points out, that it's lice ridden and fake colored salmon and what to look out for. And I used to love eating salmon, but now I'm much pickier because of that. So look at this, a nice little table on vitamin D content in fish. So bluefish looks like it's high, but when you go down to the bottom of the chart, wild caught salmon blows everything away. It's at 988 plus 524. Those are the different measurements. Okay, so you got ounces and then you got IU. I'm not 100% sure what IU is, but look at these numbers. So let's just rank them. So you're looking at wild caught salmon in first place by more than 2.5 times the second place, which is tuna, ahi tuna. And then you have right underneath it, in a close third place, you got farm caught trout. And then it's just downhill from there. Then you have bluefish squeaking it ahead of farm salmon. Then you have cod, which you got to keep in mind, cod liver oil is usually what the pills are made from. And look how low it is. You are much better off eating wild-caught salmon. And then gray sole. Oh, poor gray sole. It sounds so sad, that gray sole. All right, so continuing on to second point. Your own fat stores. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and that means your body stores vitamin D in adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is something that's known as your body fat. This is why it's so imperative to sun max in the summer months, because maxing out on that vitamin D is what will get you through the winter. Throw out the sunscreen. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh my God, Tristan said to throw out the sunscreen. I'm going to burn without the sunscreen. Yes, but there are things that help prevent it. One of the things that I do is to actually prevent myself from getting burned in the sun is I minimize the amount of foods that I have in seed oils. Now, I'm going to promote somebody, which is the Seed Oil Scout, which is an app that you can find on your phone. And no, they are not paying me, but if you want to work something out, Seed Oil Scout, just give me a shout. Anyway, so they list, all you got to do is pay $35 for a year or do the 7-day free trial and max it out. But what they do is they actually have a list of places that do not use seed oils. They'll list what they use, like beef tallow, olive oil, butter, whatever it is that they use, and you know that you're not going to intake the seed oil. So that way you don't have to cook everything at home. It seems like they have most cities. I'm in New York City, and I've just been using it under the last month, and I'll tell you, it really is a life changer, because other than that, you actually have to cook everything, so there's no seed oils in it. But that's really one of the things that actually helps a person not burn, and studies have shown that just by reducing your intake of those, so you're thinking like canola oil, sunflower oil, all those type of oils that come from various seeds, those are the ones that'll have an adverse reaction with your body to cause you to get burned easier. And that's why Tristan actually went into that. All right, so let's continue on. How to mobilize this stored vitamin D. There are ways to get that stored vitamin D going, and the number one way to get your stored vitamin D that's in your fatty tissue out is by burning it through exercise. Look at that. The number one way to mobilize stored vitamin D. All three of these ways actually are really good at basically increasing your metabolism, is what I would say. Because number two is the ketogenic diet. Now, I'm not a big keto person, though carnivore or plant-based is actually very similar, but they have very distinct thermal effects in the body and actually help a person burn fat and get leaner. All right, and number three is cold therapy. I know he's going to go more into it, just looking at those cavemen at the lower in the screen, but there is a huge amount of benefits from cryotherapy. I've been doing it actually for about a year and a half, 2 years now, and I could tell you some analogies, just personal experiences, anecdotal evidence, and look at studies, and we're going to do that soon because I'm a big believer in actually cold therapy. If you just embrace seasonality in the winter, this is what Tristan's saying, low-carb diet plus getting cold, your body will work for you. Focus on metabolic activation of adipose tissue through ketosis and cold. That's wise stuff. I think I already know what he's about to say, but let's actually continue on, because you see the cave people. Yeah, new evidence reveals Ice Age hunters didn't migrate south in the winter. So what happens if you're a primitive person and you have nothing to forage? What are you going to eat when the plants aren't growing? You're going to obviously have to eat meat, and hence dietary seasonality is talking about low carb, high fat, because when you don't have carbs, your body burns fats. So if you're eating animal meat with the fat, you're actually having your energy source right there. And what does this look like? It looks like a ketogenic diet. Depending on what your latitude, this might be even strict carnivore. Think about what is in season in the winter. Mostly animal foods when you're a cave person. This is part of the ancestral eating trends, the lifestyle trends in terms of that. You got to eat seasonally, and then your body can actually, because we're connected to our ancestors, your body can adapt appropriately because it's been adapted to do this for generations and generations. Like one of the examples that actually Tristan talks about is eating a banana in January is the wrong input signal. Unless you're in a tropical region, you really shouldn't be eating that in the winter. This gives me another idea of something that I can talk about for a bit longer in a future video. If you like what you're actually getting right now, make sure that you like this video, share it with someone that you think might benefit, and subscribe for more. Alright, so Tristan continues with this point by talking about your mitochondria will adapt to a high-fat diet by reforming and becoming more efficient to burn fat as fuel. Fat produces more ATP, more water, and more deuterium depleted water compared to glucose. Mitochondrial efficiency is needed to overcome less energy from the light. So you actually have to be a fat burning machine to be better at getting that vitamin D out. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean that you're doing the fat burning zone on the elliptical or the treadmill if you're low heart rate. No. In fact, what does this mean? This means that your metabolism has to be high. It definitely correlates with the eating meat in the high-fat diet, because if you have carbs, your body's going to burn carbs. It's not until the carbs run out that you actually start tapping those fat stores. So you got to get the carbs out. You got to strength train to actually increase their body's demands for energy, because muscles require more energy. So then your metabolism will go up, and then you're going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of having your metabolic fire going, which if you're eating the right diet, then that's going to just get the fire going. So he says, number 4, induces mitochondrial hormesis. Fatty acid oxidation results in higher FADH2 slash NADH ratio. That looks like it's from an old thread on Tristan. Okay, and if you want to know more about this, I'm going to leave the link to the thread also in the description, just so you know. Alright, so number 4, embracing cold. Oh, yeah, Tristan says, cold therapy has become popular thanks to the likes of Huberman Lab. I think I got it from him, but I've also picked it up from other sources too. What really matters is that you do it in the winter, as it will increase the number of mitochondria, biogenesis, activity of the mitochondria, and internal heat production. Now, this is something that I actually really agree with, and because I've noticed over the last 2 years as I've done more and more cold therapy, whether it's the summer or the winter, it's a different reason for the summer, but let's continue talking about the winter stuff. But I'll do it, and sure, it was brutal in the first like 30 days, but as soon as I was adapted to it, then it was like easier, and I could do cryotherapy basically, what do I say, like in the day during the winter. And then when you do it in the day in the winter, you would think, oh my god, he's freezing. No, you actually go out, and while that was very intense, and actually when you're in that cryo chamber, it's actually colder than what it is outside. So you go outside, you're like, oh, it's warm out here. And because your internal heat has been produced, because it's been shocked into a deeper cold for a shorter period of time, so that cold that's like 35, 36 degrees, barely over 0 degrees, that actually is not going to feel as bad because you're in sub-zero temperatures. And so I personally, this was the first time, because I've read stuff, but sometimes you get different things from different people, even though they're all making good points. But I didn't realize that the number of mitochondria actually goes up from cold exposure. Interesting. Now let's continue. Tristan says, your mitochondria are your heat source. I always learned mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Next write down the powerhouse of the cell, aka a furnace. However, the input signals to the furnace need to be in tune with winter, else they won't be very effective at producing heat. So you got to get your body in tune with the winter so your body can actually generate more heat, internal heat production, as he says. Vitamin D intake downregulates your ability to produce heat in your mitochondria. So if you're if you're actually supplementing vitamin D, your body is not going to be able to produce more heat in your mitochondria. Mind blown on that one. Wow. All right, so let's continue. So here are a few ways you can embrace the cold in the winter. Go for shiver walks, t-shirt, shorts in winter temperatures. Now I imagine that's going to be for short periods of time. If I'm doing a cryo chamber for max 3 minutes, I'd probably say it's only about 3 minutes. Keep the house at 65 Fahrenheit, 18 Celsius to improve baseline. That's a good one. Wear less layers when outside for as long as possible. Cold plunges, showers, and face dunks. Oh my God, do I love a good cold plunge. I've been doing that since about 2005 or so. I got exposed to it when I was first working at Equinox, and it kind of works in the same exact way, except when I was doing cold plunges, I could actually go up to like 10 minutes after my body like fully adapted. I wouldn't do any more than that, personal preference. But yeah, wear less layers when outside for as long as possible. This is something that I actually do. It's hardest at first, but again, when you start to do it for a little bit, I speak from personal experience, your body actually starts to adapt and you get used to it a little bit more, which means you've increased that internal heat production, you've increased the mitochondria, which just keeps you warmer. All right, so that's enough about that one. Now, point 5. Light therapy. Even in winter, a large amount of energy is present from sunlight. No UV in high latitudes, but red NIR is out all day long. You still need to be outside maxing, especially in the winter. Midday is critical. Learn more about NIR importance here. Now, this is something that's actually super important, light therapy. Now, one of the benefits that I've actually experienced, I know I'm always trying to get the sunlight, especially in the winter. And I'll tell you one thing that happened. I'm in New York City, in case you didn't realize it already. But one of the things that happened was this past Thanksgiving, it was probably in the 50s or so, like mid to upper 50s, I would say. And it was very sunny. I was just Riverside in a park, and the sun was it was around 11 a.m. or so the sun had its nice vantage point in the sky, and I was actually getting warmed up enough where I decided to just take off my shirt and sunbathe for a little bit. This, I think, is also one of the benefits of doing all this cryotherapy, is that the sun was on me. It was 50-ish degrees Fahrenheit, which is probably about like 14, 13 Celsius, and I was just out there shirtless, tanning. Because I'm adapted to colder temperatures, I can max out and get the sunlight on my chest, my arms, my back, so that way I can store a little bit more into November. And if I'm doing the same thing in March, then I'm minimizing the amount of time, even if it's a brutal day that's like sub-zero or just at zero. I'm gonna be well adapted. All right, so let's continue looking. Midday, yeah, midday is the perfect timing. There's a treatment that has been proven effective for. Oh, interesting. I don't want to click into that. I don't want to get too deep into the rabbit hole because I'd only make this video longer. But like I said, the link will be in the description. So Tristan continues going on. If you fail to get enough sunlight and thus vitamin D in the summer, I would rather that you experiment with a UV lamp over vitamin D supplementation. The trick is to use it outside or in combo with a red IR panel. Blue Light Diet has set up has a DUI UV setup guide or a spurty lamp, costs around 1K. So if you're really looking to actually get serious, that Blue Light Diet, which is at Blue Light Diet on X, they have a lamp setup. So you can go there and look at it, and if you really want to get it, just pick it up, learn how to use it, and you can start the supplementation. This is something that's new to me. I'm actually going to look into it a bit more because, like I said, when I didn't know what it was and I was just younger, I'd get affected by this too. And this is one of the things that has driven me to have all this knowledge and to continue always following people where I can learn more about strategies to just not get hit by seasonal affective disorder. Basically, you know, not being exposed to that sunlight just messing you up and getting you depressed feeling and sad and off, you know. So let's continue on. All right, Tristan. I personally use an RLT device in the winter since I'm outside less on average. I think everyone can benefit from more NIR. All right, and then he recommends someone else. Midwest has affordable panels that are high power and red bulbs to minimize circadian disruption. Excellent. Now, point number 6 on how to minimize seasonal affective disorder is to be active. Easiest way to stay happier in the winter? Go outside and embrace winter sports and activities. Combining outdoors plus exercise is an effective way to live life in all seasons. I love skiing more than any other sport. Now, one of the things I want to talk about skiing actually is from the people I treat and take care of in terms of sports injuries and recovery from injuries. I'd say the top 5, it's one of the top 5, is people getting into skiing accidents. I'm going to do some videos talking about some interesting ways to prevent accidents and help you warm up properly as a skier, so that way you can minimize your chances of getting hurt. But yeah, they wind up getting knee issues, ankle issues, a whole bunch of stuff because, you know, you got those 2 separate skis, they're going their own way, and if things go awry, they go separate. And then just think, it's like your legs are a wishbone, and you don't want your legs to be like a wishbone, snapping too. Ooh, no. All right, so let's continue on. But yes, embrace winter sports. Go to the gym, lift, do some stuff outside. Make a snow castle if you have to. Shovel if you're healthy enough. That's some good outdoor exercise. I used to do it all the time as a kid for money. Teenager, really. All right, so Tristan, he says, summary. SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is a byproduct of modern living. Yes, because we're inside too much. And how do you prevent it or minimize seasonal affective disorder? You avoid it by sun maxing all year round, getting cold, eating low carb in the winter, connecting to your ancestors in that way by getting cold and eating low carb. Do not use vitamin D supplements. Use the sun maxing. Get cold. Eat low carb. Our biology allows us to thrive in any environment. We just need to embrace that environment. The input to the system matters. So what your activity, this is just summarizing it, but what your activity is, what you eat, what you do, all these things affect the outcome of you. So you have to do your best in everything to connect to what your body can adapt to. So if it's winter and you're in a northern, like far north environment where you actually feel winter, or far south, if you're south of the equator where you feel a winter environment, you need to adapt to that environment. Not everyone is lucky to live close to the equator. And when you don't live close to the equator and can't get the sunlight all the time, you need these strategies. So if you want to learn other ways to take care of yourself, one of the things I want you to do is click on this video over here. If not, I know you're going to love this video. And let's watch one of the next videos together.